Welcome to Football Night in New York, a living room edition. I'm Jeane Coakley alongside Vacchiano and Jonas Schwartz. All right, guys, can you believe it? The draft is less than a week away. Both the Jets and the Giants need help on offense and defense. So, Ralph, let's start with the Giants. What do the Giants need to do? Do they need to focus more on offense or defense this draft?
Well, Jeane, there's no question to me it's got to be the offense, and that's just by looking at what they've done recently. In free agency, they went and got a corner. They went and got two linebackers, a defensive tackle, really focused on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what they did last year, too, during the draft. They got, two first-round picks. Obviously, they got Daniel Jones at quarterback. But after that, a defensive tackle, a cornerback, other defensive players in the draft. They have overloaded with young players on that side of the ball. It's time to pay attention to the offense, particularly that offensive line.
Well, that's the thing I was going to say, Ralph, is the offensive line has got to be the priority. Skill position-wise, I think they're in decent shape, actually. But that offensive line is the best thing that they can do to help out Daniel Jones. They sorely need the help. We know Nate Solder's been a disaster at left tackle, and so we know that they're looking at a lot of those big tackles. After that offensive line, though, I think they could go for some defensive playmakers if there are some available. Because, again, Saquon Barkley's set, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate. I mean, they do have a lot of help at those skill positions. So offensive line first, then I would work on the defense. Because let's be honest, that defense, while they've added to it in terms of free agency, that defense needs a lot of help coming off last year.
All right, well, let's talk about the Jets because, Jonas, you just said, that the Giants need to work on that offensive line. Well, in free agency, Joe Douglas, that's all he's worked on is the offensive line for the Jets. So what does Joe Douglas need to do on this draft? Does he need to focus more on offense or defense? What do you think, Jonas?
Offense, and offensive line first, because you're right, Jeane, he did work on it with a lot of additions in free agency, but we still know it's not enough. He needs more, and he needs some top-tier talent. And, boy, if one of those four tackles is there at 11, he has got to take him and worry about that first. And then after that, by the way, wide receiver. We've talked about this on past editions of Football Night in New York in our living rooms, which is basically that wide receiver room is bare and empty. So offensive line first, and then with the depth of this draft, wide receiver after that, Ralph.
Yeah, I agree with Jonas, which is strange enough. But what's really strange about it to me is that when I look at the Jets defense, I'm not impressed by what I see. I don't see great talent on the defensive line. Maybe, they have C.J. Mosley, a linebacker. He's coming back off an injury. Not great edge rushing, not a great pass rush. Certainly they need help at cornerback. I say all those things, and you'd think I would say get defense, except that Craig Williams did such an incredible job of putting that together that the defense is actually fine and could use a little bit of help. But the offense, to me, Jonas is right. There's just a dearth of weapons for Sam Darnold. He needs a big receiver, and he needs to be protected. Joe Douglas has taken really good steps in that direction, but he does need to do more.
You're right. Greg Williams is that Band-Aid for that defense. All right, let's talk about the coaches. Joe Judge, he's the new guy in town. He took over this Giants job in unprecedented times. Ralph, how important is this draft for Joe Judge?
It's not a make or break draft for him, obviously, just in his first few months on the job, but it's important because this is the first time he gets to sort of put his stamp on the organization, bring in the kind of players he wants. And it's also important because we get to see, and maybe the Giants get to learn, just how much of an influence Joe Judge is going to have. Are they going to draft Dave Gettleman players, or is Dave Gettleman going to draft Joe Judge players? Is there some sort of compromise in there? I don't know that we'll know right away, but I'm sure that there'll be some disagreements at some point. I'm sure there's going to be some jockeying for power. It's going to be important for Joe Judge to make his influence felt in that room and kind of start to build the team that he wants to see.
It's interesting because it's the most fascinating dynamic of all the football teams when it comes to the draft, which is the Gettleman-Judge dynamic, because I'm not sure they're on the same timetable. Gettleman needs results now to keep his job. Joe Judge is just beginning here, and we saw how that played out with Mike McCagnon and Adam Gase a year ago and how one is no longer in his job. So I think Judge needs to set a tone of the kind of player he wants. And in the past, That's ruffled some feathers, right? When a Belichick assistant has moved on someplace, when Matt Patricia, other guys, Eric Mangini way back with the Jets, the feathers get a little ruffled looking for that particular type of guy. So it's interesting to see how Judge tries to accomplish that and if it meshes with Gettleman's vision of what he needs, because Gettleman can't miss here. We all know he's got so much riding on this. He needs to hit on these picks and in a way that's evident to everybody. And it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out as Judge tries to set the tone with his type of guy.
And Jonas, you mentioned Adam Gase and Maccagnan. They were on the same page and Maccagnan's no longer there. Well, Adam Gase has Joe Douglas this year. How important is this draft for Adam Gase, because this is his first draft with Joe Douglas?
Well, it's important insofar as he's got to show that any of the mistakes made last year in the draft, maybe like Ja'Kai Polite, is not his fault. It was on Maccagnan. He needs to show that he and Douglas are on the same page in terms of bringing in his type of guy who can flourish in his system. Now, Gase, I think as the year went on, started to make some adjustments to that system, which he needed to do and probably needs to make more adjustments. But now he gets the chance to show how he would have his influence on the draft, because he and Douglas are supposed to be on the same page. That's where this is crucial. Maccagnan missed on so many middle round picks. And by middle, I mean starting in the second, third, fourth, that these two have got to be on the same page to build up the depth, Ralph, on this roster.
Yeah, no question about it. And there's no way to interpret this draft as anything other than Adam Gase's fingerprints being all over it, because that was the whole deal with Mike Maccagnan. The idea that he was, drafting on his own and the coaches were not thrilled that he was, their voices weren't being heard. And you bring in Joe Douglas because he's the guy who can work well with Adam Gase. So, this is an Adam Gase draft, and he needs to get the kind of players he wants. He needs to build on last year. And it's really crucial because I can't tell you for sure that if this season goes south, he'll be back for a third season. I would think, in a sane world, the coach would get at least 3 years, but I don't know that that's definitely the case. I also know that, fans are going to lose a lot of faith in him if the Jets tank this year. So I think he needs to kind of do something to show, hey, we have a plan. I can make it work. Here are my guys. And now we can win. It's crucial that he gets guys that can help now.
Not Jets fans, right, Jonas?
No, never. Very patient, and with good reason, with the results of the past,
Exactly. Well, guys, the Jets did add a cornerback in free agency, Pierre Desir. I caught up with him in this week's edition of Getting to Know You. Pierre, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
First one. If you could be part of any sitcom family, what family you choosing?
Sitcom family, I'll be part of Modern Family.
Your favorite quarantine activity?
Favorite quarantine activity would be puzzles. I did a 1,000-piece of puzzle of New York City, actually.
All right, a lot of people are binge watching TV. What's the thing you've binge watched?
I watched The Tiger King.
All right, I see you
I watched
there.
The Tiger King, and right now I'm watching Money Heist.
Go-to karaoke song?
Go-to karaoke song. Okay, so I love Maroon 5. Probably a song that I could sing off the top would be Bruno Mars. That's what I like. I got a condo in Manhattan. Baby, what's happening? That's all you're going to get right now.
My final question, favorite board game?
Favorite board game? Okay, so me and my kids were very competitive. So we have to make sure the game is stable enough because some pieces will go flying. So I would say Sorry, and then Trouble.
Pierre, thank you so much. I hope you and your family are staying safe. And it was great getting to know you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys. Well, draft is next week, so let's continue this conversation all next week. How's that sound? Starting next week, football night in New York, Monday through Friday, starting at 12:30. You can catch it on SNY's social media platform. And guys, how about a show on SNY Thursday night, 6:30, Jets Nation Draft Show. We are all going to be there. Make sure you tune in. Catch it. Living Room Edition. Going to be fun.